Hello everybody, welcome to my channel as always. My name is Brian Hussar and this is where I talk about all my passions, specifically the Beatles, music and movies and musical theater. Welcome to some more new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Please spread the word. This one is a bit overdue. I should have done this on September the 9th and I forgot. Reflections on September 9th, 2009. You remember that day, Beatle fans? Remember that? Well, let me refresh your memory. The big stereo remaster box set. Remember this? And also this one, the mono box set. Yeah, you remember? Not too long ago. I was excited. In the 90s, everybody was digitally remastering their catalogs and putting liner notes and recreating the original album art, which they didn't do in the 80s. But the Beatles, it never happened. The CDs that were out were still the same CDs that came out in early 87 and spring of 87 and the fall of 87. So all of the 87 CDs, that's what we had. The sound quality was not upgraded, no liner notes with the exception of Pepper. It was pretty haphazard packaging. I mean, come on, the back cover of Revolver spread over 5 pages. The first 4 Beatles albums came out in mono only, but to me, with my little OCD, things, especially on Sgt. Pepper, bothered me. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds fades out early on the 87 edition. It's a quieter fade, which creates a 3-second gap between Lucy and Getting Better. And Sgt. Pepper was famous, both mono and stereo, not having any gaps. Either a direct edit, a crossfade, or matching the dying moment of one song with the beginning of the other, or just a split second of silence in between those tracks. The merest split second of silence where it wouldn't even qualify as a gap. So when they announced the remasters in 2008, I was excited. I didn't have a YouTube channel then. And if I had a YouTube channel, I would have done a nice unboxing and the first reviews around that time. But what do I think of these after all this time? What do I think of the stereo CDs and the mono CDs? Now, at the time these came out, there were all this talk about the loudness wars. CDs were massively compressed or peak limited to death. Peak limiting and compression are very similar, but they're two separate things. So were these Beatles CDs going to be loud like that? Were they going to ruin the dynamic range? Fortunately, the Abbey Road engineers and the person who headed the project, Alan Rouse, knew better. For the stereos, they used peak limiting where it was necessary, but they didn't overdo it. It still kept the dynamic range. And on the mono CDs, no peak limiting whatsoever. The first thing I did was I unwrapped Sgt. Pepper. Did they correct that annoying early fade on Lucy on the stereo mix, the original stereo mix? Did they correct that? Jumping for joy in my apartment, where I proudly took a picture of both box sets on my counter in my single days before I met my wife. I put on Sgt. Pepper and I specifically fast forwarded to the end of Lucy to see if they corrected that issue with the fade. And as soon as I heard the fade the same length as the original 67 vinyl edition, and the same space or split-second gap between Lucy and Getting Better, I was jumping for joy. And I said, wow, they did a really good job on these. And the stereo versions, I heard things with headphones that I never heard before in the mixes. As far as Ringo and his cymbals and his hi-hat work, I heard the wood from Ringo's sticks on his ride cymbal. I never heard that before in such detail and clarity. The mono mixes were another matter altogether. They sounded great, but they didn't sound overly processed, especially the 4 albums that were originally issued on CD in mono back in '87. They didn't sound overly processed. They didn't try dehissing them the way they did the '87 CDs. You know, the problem with those is that they really tried to get too perfect of a sound, and it lost that analog quality to it. The mono editions, they had a punch to them, and clarity, as well as they kept that period vibe too, if that makes sense. And as far as the stereo, I felt these are now the gold standards of which to match every CD remaster done by other artists. And as I said before, even with this packaging, the Beatles were trendsetters. In 2011, Pink Floyd decided to do a massive reissue campaign of their catalog. They had James Guthrie and Joe Plant remaster everything, and they came out with new digital remasters in a box set, and then I think that was the catalyst for the big Led Zeppelin reissue campaign that happened in 2015. And I have those on vinyl and CD, and the CDs sound excellent as well. Not overly processed, not totally peak limited to death, just where it needs it and just more power to it. So the Beatles were trendsetters. Now, I still listen to CDs, as many of you know. I listen to vinyl and CD, and I go back and forth. I'm not buying this crock that CDs are dying, because honestly, when a CD is perfectly mastered, it is a beautiful thing. I think the 2009 remasters of the Beatles catalog shows that. Now, the mono editions on vinyl take that a step further. You almost got new first pressings again, because they follow the cutting notes to a T, which I love. And now it looks like those are being discontinued. Strange. What's going on there? Go to Amazon and try looking up some of the Beatles mono vinyl reissues, and you'll find out that they're from third-party sellers and way up there in price now. That's strange all of a sudden. I don't get it. 09, that was an exciting time after dealing in the 90s of no remasters coming out when they could have grabbed the kettle while it was hot, and after the anthology, and they didn't do that, and other artists were doing that, and here they are finally knocking it out of the park with the pictures and the liner notes. It prepared us, I think, now for these big box sets that we are getting. Last year with Sgt. Pepper, and now with the upcoming White Album. And when they hit it out of the park, man, Apple and the Beatles, they hit it out of the park. That's my take on 09 for the stereo box set and the mono box set. One final note about the stereo box set. This is my second copy of the box set, because my oldest son Harrison fell in love with the Beatles, and he kept taking my original stereo box set that I got on 09, and the box imploded. And I knew it was going to happen. So I went to my wife and said, Tiff, I got to get another Beatles box. And she said, but honey, no, in 2 days that box is going to be toast. And I'll give those to Harrison. That's exactly what I did. Bought a new stereo box last year, actually. And my original box with black electrical tape all over it to hold the creases together is my eldest son's. And until we meet again.